Hey, so this is kind of part 4A. This is an addition to part 4 that I wanted to add in. And I wanted to share a little story because when I talk about the purpose of public education, please go watch my other videos first. But I want to just highlight that when parents drop their kids off at school, they want their kids to go to a safe place. They want their kids to learn. They want their kids to have friends. They want them to feel encouraged and built up, and they want them to have a positive experience. I think every parent wants that. The problem that we have in how we have shifted our focus of the purpose of public education, when we make it about commerce, when we make it tied to outcomes, when we make it tied to job opportunities. And I'm not saying we can't. I mean, I'm planning a career day as a counselor. I talk about the importance of, what you're going to do in your job someday. Like, we need to talk about those things. Kids need knowledge. Kids need the tools. Kids need technology. Kids need to learn. I'm in agreement with all of that. But it can't be the root. It can't be the root. And so I wanted to tell you this story about a young man that I saw several times in my counseling office this year. And he's a really great example of why schools need more support in the elementary levels related to social emotional learning, which is not a bad word. It's not scary. It might be scary for some people because you think we're teaching them things that you as a parent, maybe it makes you uncomfortable. And I want to encourage you to please not be afraid of that. Just because it's uncomfortable, or maybe it's something that you don't want to talk about, it doesn't mean that it's bad. And here's what I mean. So one of the things that we hear from parents the most is, they don't like the testing, they don't like the behavior issues, and they don't like, what the teacher's teaching, or that the teacher is too hard on them or whatever. Okay, so addressing one of those issues with behavior, if you look at behavior in schools right now, one of the major things that teachers are dealing with is behavior. And the reason for that is, number one, parents just support your teachers. If the teacher is wrong, have a conversation with them about it. Don't come at them with, an attack. But just because the teacher is wrong doesn't mean they're a bad person. Maybe they didn't handle the situation correctly. And teachers are overloaded. I'm not saying it's a pass for a bad teacher. I'm saying have a conversation. And I won't tell this story now, but, my kids had good teachers and my kids had bad teachers. And I was the parent that was in their inbox or on the phone and even in the principal's office for those teachers that were not fair to my kid. I will advocate for my kid, and I think every parent should be the number one advocate for their kid. So I'm not saying don't advocate for them. Don't stand up for them. Yes, you absolutely should. We actually need more parents to do that in respectful ways. Call the teacher and find out what went on instead of just emailing the principal because you're mad when your kid got off the bus. So have a conversation. That's my first thing. But secondly, the reason this has to do with the purpose of education is because there's a lot of parents that want to just drop their kids off at school, and they want us to take care of them and teach them everything that they want them to know. But there is such a wide expectation on what that means. And we have such a wide, I can't even count. I could give you hours and hours and hours of videos talking about the different needs and home situations that we have that come through our doors in public education. And I've taught at 10 different schools in wide economic and diversity ranges. And I am telling you that we live in a time right now, I started teaching over 30 years ago. We live in a time now where kids are just coming to school with different needs. That doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that parents aren't doing their job, although some parents are not doing their job. But what I would say is there's a lot of young parents that just don't know They just don't know what their kid needs. And so they just put a device in front of them, or they're stressed out and overworked. They're trying to deal with their own mental health, and our kids are not getting the social emotional learning that they may have had more of when I was a kid. I'm not saying our generation did it better, because I am in therapy. So I'm just telling you, our kids are missing out on this. And the story I want to share, and then I'm going to get off, is I had a young man that I saw in my counseling office multiple times this year. He got in quite a bit of trouble, which they don't come see me when they're in trouble. But I partnered with the AP office and the teachers to try to help this kid be successful, because he learned to trust me and he would talk to me. And what would happen is he was bullying kids, and he had a lot of trouble playing soccer at recess and would get very competitive. And he was a very angry child. And when I would see him in my office, once I was able to I kind of refer to it as crack him open a little bit, but I don't actually crack kids open. So I hope you know that. When I cracked him open a little bit, he was just a puddle of emotion on my floor. And my heart broke for this kid, because when he shared with me, and I won't break confidentiality, but what I will share is that he was living with one parent here, and he had used to be with another parent who would berate him. There's a lot of emotional abuse, and that's why he was here. But also the parent that's here had a past of being in trouble and being in jail, and he wanted a better life for his kid. And I just think that was a family that's struggling, and that kid didn't know what to do with all of his emotions, because what we tell little boys is that they can't cry, or they have to be tough, or they have to, and kids are facing hard things. A lot of kids face divorce and relationship conflict among the adults, and families are very divided right now. And so when you have kids that see that, even if they're just witnessing it, they're not even a part of it, they don't know what to do with all of that. So we have got to equip our counselors and teachers with more training and support for emotional learning and social interaction, because it's not just how to get along anymore. It's how do we deal with the tough things of life. And kids are not born with this. And that kid showed me he had inside of him a lot of pain and anger. And if that kid, we've now got him in outside therapy, because I don't do therapy in school. I am working on taking my test to be LPC, but I don't do that. For those of you that may not know, I don't do that in school counseling. I see kids to help them be successful enough to get back to class. That's literally the limits of what my certification is for in a school. And I refer, and I support, and I help the teachers, and that's what I do as a counselor. But we got him in therapy, and one of the things that's important is that for him to have the emotional skills to, first of all, stop stuffing down the pain and have a safe place to process, because his nerves are just on haywire. And that's why he can't get along with other kids. That's why when one kid says something that they don't probably mean, but you know how kids are. They get competitive and they tell him, you're a loser and you lost. And so then he loses it and he hurts somebody. And he's going to grow up, if we don't have intervention for kids like that, they're the ones that grow up, that get into fights, that are not learning. They're not successful in school. They're coping with drugs or alcohol or other criminal activity. And they're the ones that are going to not be graduating. They're the ones that are going to be a drain on society. They're the ones that are going to be incarcerated. And so if we could start trying to understand the purpose of education is to intervene early childhood intervention. When we get the kids to school, no matter how they come to us, we need to meet their needs where they are. And the teachers right now in the school districts, majority of the school districts in my area have set their budgets because they have to accept whoever comes through the door. But we don't have the resources, and they have deficit budgets. So please, if you are watching this, I want you to understand the purpose of education is to help kids be good humans. And we can make a difference if we intervene early. So that's the point of this. Stay tuned for more.